Okay, so the oil, temperature, and fuel gauge all work off of a voltage regulator that's on the back of the circuit board, back of the cluster. That brings it from 12 volts down to 5 volts. It does that in like a pulse, so you'll notice that the needles kind of move slightly jerky. And then also, all I'm doing is grounding out the gauge to get it to sweep to full. So, and it takes a long time for these to go back down to zero, so I'm not going to keep the camera going for them to go all the way back down to zero. You'll see that they're at zero now, and then I'll sweep them to full range. But let me go ahead and I'll test the oil pressure gauge now. Like I said, it takes a while to go back down, so I'm not going to do a full video of that. But yeah, so you see the oil pressure gauge works. Okay, here's a test of the temperature gauge. And you can see that works. Okay, here's a test of the fuel gauge. Okay, so here's a test of the amp gauge. And let me flip this around so I can show you if it's got too much of a discharge. Okay, so that's the amp gauge working. Okay, here's the speedometer test. My drill only goes so fast, so I think this gets up to about 65 miles an hour or so, but that's it. But at least it shows that it works. Okay, so now I'm going to show the high beam, the brake, and the two blinker lights working. Turn this big light off. And I'll go ahead and turn on the back lights again. So you can see all the bulbs work perfectly. Those dots you see on the outside edges of the gauges, those are covered once you put the cluster bezel on. Same thing with those two lines above and below the brake light. They're covered by the bezel, so you don't see that stuff. And yeah, so it all works great. All the lights work and all the gauges work. Yeah, so there you go. All the gauges work, all the lights work. I polished up the lenses on the face so you can see, you know, with the reflections here. There's some, you know, minor imperfections or whatever, but for the most part, these are, you know, this thing is in excellent use condition now. Yeah, I guess that's it. There's no cracks or breaks in the frame. It comes with the original mounting bolts that mount it to the dash, and also the two bolts that were used to mount in this was an AM radio. I'm sure they're the same if it's an AM FM radio, but yeah, so it works perfectly.